What's up, Red Bags? I'm bigworm380, and Jade invited me to do a video for his channel, and we're going to do a bit of a state of the game for Escape from Tarkov. This game is currently only available on PC, and the developers, Battlestate Games, have said they're considering bringing it to console, but it's too early to talk about that. Now, they said that over 4 years ago, and nothing else has really been said about it, but you never know. Hopefully, this game does well when it does fully release on PC, and it will come to console. Now, I'm not calling this a full review because obviously the game is still in beta, which it has been for a few years. And that's not a knock on the developers because they've come a long way with this game in that time. They're a smaller developer, so they're getting it done. They just dropped their latest patch for the game on March 26, and the notes show they squashed quite a bit of bugs. I'm getting the impression that Battlestate Games really wants this thing as close to perfect before full release. I think we all know what it's like to get a newly released game and it be a buggy mess, so I can appreciate the devs for trying to get it right. If you're new to Tarkov or you're on the fence about getting it, hopefully I can answer some of your questions you may have. Let's get started with what this game is first for the uninitiated. Escape from Tarkov is a realistic first-person looter shooter. You're dropped into a huge map, and basically your goal is to get to the other side of the map while getting as much loot, money, and items as you can. Sounds simple, right? Well, in theory, it is. In application, not so much. If you drop in as your main character, the one from the PMC faction, then you have to worry about AI enemies called scavs. Not only that, you have to concern yourself with an unknown number of actual human players, and you have no idea where they're at. Until the shooting starts, that is. I can tell you there's probably not a more nerve-wracking game to drop into for the first time. You don't know the map, you don't know where the exits are, and you're probably going to die. A lot. And you're going to lose all your gear you went into that map with. As far as knowing the map and where the exits are, there are maps in the game that you can buy from one of the vendors, but the quality of them isn't that good at all, and most players recommend that you just search the internet and find some maps on there. There's some really good quality maps that you can print out, or you can have them on a second monitor right there with you if you want to do that. That's a huge help. As far as the dying and losing stuff, Tarkov does give you the option to go into raids as a character called a scav. This is separate from your PMC character that you level up. This is definitely the way to go for new players, and the reason why is enemy AI scavs won't attack you unless you attack them. Basically, you're one of them. You also don't take any of your personal gear into the raid, so you don't lose anything if you die. The drawback to this is you spawn with random gear each time you go in as a scav, and it's usually lower quality than what you're going to want to be carrying. But when starting out, I'd say that's a fair trade. You also won't gain any XP for your PMC character, and you can only complete certain tasks that go towards unlocking stuff. But again, if you're just learning the game, or even a map that's new to you, the scav runs are the way to go. Just be aware that there's a cooldown timer after each scav run, I think about 20 minutes, so you can't just do back-to-back runs without waiting a bit. As far as the gameplay and audio, this game is right up there with the best. There's a ton of different guns in this game, and they all have pretty realistic ballistics. The weapons have a ton of attachments, so you can really customize your setup just how you want it. The sound in the game is really good too, almost too good at times, because it can be really loud during a gunfight. But that's to be expected, being that it's a more realistic game. Really, the main gripe on the audio from the community is that while the audio is good, it can be hard to tell where an enemy is as far as like the vertical direction. Meaning, if you're in an apartment building, for instance, it can be tough to tell whether the person you're hunting is above you, below you, or even on the same floor. And that's kind of important to know. Graphically, Escape from Tarkov looks great. There's tons of detail throughout the map, and you can tell the developers put a lot of time into the actual build of the maps. Just the amount of debris and just, just items that you can't even interact with that are in every little nook and cranny of these maps is crazy. The game itself runs really well. I will say, though, if you're trying to get into a game and the server traffic is high, it may take a while to get in, and sometimes you get disconnected and things like that. I'm sure if you watch any streamers at the very end of last year, a lot of the big name streamers jumped into Tarkov, and that caused an explosion in the number of players getting on, which of course led to server and connection issues. It's a good problem for Battlestate Games to have, they just have to try to stay ahead of it to maintain the player base. It would be a shame for this game to die out due to some poor netcode. So, what do you do when you have all that loot after a successful raid? Well, there's a few things you can do. There's a base building feature in the game that you can spend money on to level up different areas within the base. These leveled up areas will give your character boosted attributes that'll help you in the game, like quicker health regen for your PMC character, different skill boosts, or even shortening that cooldown timer for scav runs I talked about. You'll also find valuable items when looting, and these can be sold to different dealers. There's 8 different dealers, and they all specialize in different items. For example, you'll pay more for weapons if you go to the dealer that specializes in them, but it'll be a better quality weapon than if you go to one of the other ones that don't. This is also true when selling items. You'll get more money at certain dealers for the same item, so shop around. I would suggest reading through the Tarkov wiki about the dealers so you kind of know who to go to for what item. There's also a flea market you can spend your money at, but you have to be level 10 to unlock it. At the flea market, you can buy weapons and items from actual players. I haven't unlocked it yet, but I have been hearing that this in-game economy needs to be improved on, and people are kind of messing it up by buying all the high-demand items up, and, probably they're, overpricing them and, just creating false demand, and, they're manipulating the in-game economy. So, and people are even using bots to do this with. Hopefully Battlestate can get this ironed out, because it's really cool when games have in-game trading systems like that, as long as it's working as intended. Battlestate Games still has some work to do before full release, and it's not just on the game itself. The developers have made some headlines they could probably have done without. There was a fiasco in 2018 about them copyright claiming dozens of YouTube videos for the YouTuber simply criticizing the game. Then in another incident, one of the devs apparently put a real gun to his head and pulled the trigger, acting out of suicide on stream. Of course, the gun was unloaded, and, it was just a fake thing. But their channel got banned on Twitch. And probably the worst one, in 2016, one of the programmers was asked if they were going to add female avatars to the game. He stuck his foot right in his mouth, saying women can't handle the stress of war, and that it's a place only for hardened men. And of course, this ignited a social media firestorm, and you'd have to expect that for that kind of comment. Of course, they tried to walk back the comment, saying they respect female soldiers, yada, yada, yada. But, I think, and this is nothing against Russia or their people or anything like that, but I think it's fair to say that it's a different culture over there. It's not as politically correct, I guess, or I guess you would say modern as far as their views like that. This company is a Russian company over in Russia, and that's not an excuse. But I think that's kind of the reason for these types of comments. But, I don't know. Personally, I don't care if they have female avatars or not. I don't care which, if it's male or female. And it's their game and their choice, but they need to be more aware of who their audience includes. I think avoiding these types of headlines is just important as improving the game itself. So right now, the way I see it, Battlestate Games is in the driver's seat here. They can either make this a huge success or they can end up failing. And I'd hate to see it be something stupid like one of these dumb headlines, one of these comments or whatever. They just need to rein in their people and, say, look, we need to a little less talky, a little more bug fixy. They're continuously making patches and, updating fairly regularly. They're fixing bugs. They're adding content. There's more maps to be coming. This is a good game. I mean, I don't, it's theirs to screw up, basically. And probably the biggest thing is going to be the server performance. Like I said, when you have this huge influx of people from all these big streamers playing and you get that boost in player count, that's a great thing. But the problem with that is if your servers can't handle it, that's a big problem. This is an online game, so they got to get that fixed. So right now, I'd say Tarkov is a pretty good game. Like I said in the beginning, this isn't a full review because the game isn't fully released, so that wouldn't exactly be fair to the developers or the game, but as it stands, I'm really enjoying the game. The raids are intense, even if you don't end up in a gunfight, and it feels real rewarding just to make it out alive and bring home some loot. I will warn you, with all the weapons, armor, and other items, the learning curve on this game is pretty steep. This is definitely not Call of Duty where you just jump in and go. There's lots to learn, and your success in raids will depend on how much and how fast you can absorb everything. There aren't a lot of looter-shooter type games out there to begin with, and to me, this one is far and away the best one. If you're interested in games like this, I'd recommend picking it up. even in its beta state. There are several tiers of the games you can pick up, depending on how much you want to spend, and they're all 25% off at the time of this recording. But that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. That'll help Jade out a bunch. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.